Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Hear Our Voices. Thank you for listening in. This is your host, Khadijah D, and this is the podcast where we tell stories, give resources, and change the narrative of homelessness, guys. Thank you for coming back. Guys, we're growing on YouTube. I know, I'm sorry, Spotify/Anchor. We're growing very small, but if you want to do a small competition, guys, wherever you're listening to me on or from, please like and share from there so I know which community is doing it better. I'm just saying. People are downloading me. Well, I'm not sure if you're listening either. So if you want to download and also click play so I know, I'm not sure if that's going to hurt our analytics, to be honest. I'm not a person who does that, but a person who's listening and understand analytics and how to do things like that, please definitely DM me so I can learn more. I'm always down to learn from people who know more than me about a certain subject. You're never too old and never be afraid to learn from other people who know more than you. Okay, I've been doing YouTube for years and I'm podcasting for a couple of years, but there's always some things to learn. This stuff is always changing, ever changing all the time. So, yes, but definitely follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We're growing. Hopefully, we can open Facebook up again. We never know. And our YouTube family. And of course, Spotify. That's what we started on Anchor until it turned into Spotify. So, that's where we got our start from, guys. I am so happy that we have come this far. And if you want to work with me, guys, we're also looking for volunteers. So I don't want to forget about that. We're looking for volunteers, people who want to help out with policy and things like that. So if you do, it will be a link down below, and you could definitely come into that. If you want to be hired, you have to, and also this is also the criteria for if you want to be on a podcast as a lived experience person, you have to have a family with the, you have to have been housing insecure or homeless in a way in any state, and you have to have your child with you. Your child could either do the podcast or you could do the podcast, and the child had to be 21 when it happens. So that's the criteria for that. If you're a person who wants to give resources, we take on all the resources, even does not pertain to families itself. If it's for individuals or in families, that's what make it up, right? So we like to help everybody as much as we can and give out the most resources as possible. Resources we only want from New York City though, because that's where my team is located and that's what we could do. But stories we could take from any state. And once we get bigger, we could take more resources from more places. But until my team grows, I can only do but so much. So I'm sorry if we have other things, but we have things on federal levels that you would like us to push and do. We'd love to hear about those particular things. And I would love to talk about it and learn about it and see how we can help you push the cause that you want to push. So we have another thing on our hot topic. This might be a hot topic actually. So welcome to Hot Topic, guys. I haven't done this in a while, probably like a year, to be honest. So right now, if you know anything about PATH, if you know anything about the eligibility for people going to PATH, you have to have 2 years of housing history. But yesterday it has dropped that we've been pushing this bill with Family Homeless Coalition about making sure that people can self-attestation. I feel like I'm pronouncing that kind of wonky, but it's basically saying if you go to PATH, first of all, we want to only do 1 year of housing. To me, it should be 6 months, but you only push, so far, and then hopefully next step we go for 6 months. But single people have only a year. Right now, family has 2 years to prove where they are living. So if you fail, I guess the first time, we want people to be able to say, I am homeless. Believe me, understand that it is true. And keep the people in the shelter system. The problem that's been happening, people have been not eligible for shelter, so because of that, they can't start their process properly a lot of the times in the shelters they're in. It's not supposed to technically be like that, but here we are again fighting for the rights of families in shelter. But yes, today we have a guest. Oh my gosh. We have a guest. We had Anthos Homes on a couple of years ago, actually. And I feel like, not saying new things, I don't think there's any new things happening, but I want people to get an understanding of what Anthos Homes is about and how they work with people and about Cityfheps, because that's very important too. If you don't, there's a lot of things with Cityfheps going on, guys. We're gonna be doing a small series with that coming up. So keep your ears tuned of what's happening and know that we need your help to push this in legislation to make sure that we can get everybody to be able to have these things that we want them to have, which is vouchers. So, yes. Can you please, Laura, tell us a little bit, a synopsis of Anthos Homes and what do they do for people in the shelter system? And I want to say they're only located in New York. Am I correct?
Correct. New York City. We
New
serve
York
all
City.
of New York
Yes.
City.
Yes, the five
So,
boroughs.
yeah, go ahead, Khadijah. Sorry.
Well, the five boroughs. If you don't know, because people when I ask them like what boroughs do we have, people don't know. So we have Brooklyn, we have Bronx, we have Manhattan. I know one of the islands, but this island is Staten Island and Queens. Did I say everything?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
Yes, all
Yeah.
five boroughs. We
Yeah.
serve all five boroughs.
Yes.
And so you're right. We talked a couple of years ago, and we have done a lot of work since we talked to you, but the same model is intact. But now we have been able to prove that it works.
Hmm.
And what we do is we help people who have a housing voucher. They can be in shelter, they can be a young adult who's aging out of foster care, it can be somebody in community who qualifies for a voucher, and it can be any voucher. So not just Cityfheps, it can be a housing choice voucher from HPD or from NYCHA or from the state. Um, what we do is we help people with those vouchers. We match them to units that are available to them that we know will meet the voucher requirements. And we serve as a matchmaker and help people with the applications, both to the landlords and to through whatever government process there is. And then we provide 1 year of housing stability support. And we really focus on being flexible and filling in the gaps. And we really work closely with landlords as well because we want to make sure that there's more supply available for all the people who need this housing.
So, what have you seen after all these years? Because I feel like when we first talked, it was fairly new-ish, right? What have you
Yes.
learned, and what things have you changed, maybe, to make your system better for people going through this process?
So since right now, since we started our operations in the summer of 2023, we have moved in nearly 1,200 people to date.
Yes, snaps.
And we've worked
Congrats.
with more than 600 different landlords all across the city, all different sizes and shapes. Um, you know, we Some of the things we've learned are one, the voucher processes are really complicated,
Right.
and having us have that expertise. Right now, we're working with 11 different types of vouchers.
Oh,
We
wow.
have a team, an operations team. That's all they do is work on all the details of that voucher. So that is really important to be able to have that expertise to really make sure you put together the right kind of packages. You know what each agency is requiring. You know if there are modifications to the voucher package, which happens all the time. You know, there are updates, for example, with Cityfheps. So the
Right.
fact is that our team is on top of that. So that helps to make things faster. Oh, the other thing I wanted to note, just two things. One is everybody that we've housed has been able to stay housed at least for 1 year.
Yes.
And in addition, from referral to us into housing, we've been able to do that in 5 months on average. So
Yes.
we're faster. You know, the average length of stay for a family in shelter is more than a year.
Yes.
And as you, I'm sure many of these listeners know, it can often take much longer. Um, so other things we've learned are that having a lot of support for the landlords is helpful. We go out and look at all the units that we identify and we see whether they pass inspection. And many units fail inspection. They have, and often it's for small things like a smoke detector is not hardwired or a window guard doesn't have the right kind of, release screws. These are small fixes. Most landlords we talk to will address them themselves, but in about 20% of the instances, landlords don't have the money, don't have the capacity. It's not a priority for them. We'll
Right.
step in, and for about $3,000, uh, we're able to make those repairs, get them done within a week. And that way, we're bringing in more units into the voucher world.
Right.
The other thing that I think we've really learned that's important for landlords is having help once tenants have moved in. We continue to support the tenants if the landlords are not keeping up their end of the bargain in terms of repair issues. But, you know, there are issues with, for example, we make sure that every person that moves in understands how to renew their voucher. That's not always so easy.
Right.
If they move in, they also might have lost income from the time the voucher was approved. And so they can't afford what they were originally approved for. Let's say it was $500 and now they can only afford $400 a month. That process of getting your voucher adjusted is not always so simple or easy to follow. So
Right.
we will help support them to do that. So hopefully, once they've graduated from our program, they'll know how to do that. And then the other piece that we help with is on the arrears side. So tenants have emergencies, of course. So we'll step in and help support them and help them pay these early stage arrears. On average, we're paying around $1,000. There are also utility costs. I'm sure you've covered this on your podcast that utilities are so expensive.
Yes, Lord.
Um, so some of those emergencies, but also, and surprising to us, is that there are government paid arrears, like the government share from either Section 8 or Cityfheps that don't always make it to the landlord,
Right.
or the shelter allowance, which is the TANF piece that you know, doesn't make it to the landlord. And what the landlords really value and the tenants is that we will help solve that problem for them. So a landlord doesn't have to call a 1-800 number. At DSS, they might not know who to call. Like, it's not so easy to figure out what happened. And
Right.
because of our relationships at all the various agencies, we can really solve that arrears problem for them. And that's very valuable. And that's, I think, why we keep seeing landlords come to us for support.
I think that's wonderful. And I think a lot of times with programs, especially with Cityfheps, most people I feel like when they get on these Cityfheps or Section 8, they don't understand fully. They're just happy to get out of where they were, especially if they were homeless or get out of a DV situation and things like that. And a lot of times we're like, we want to house people, but a lot of times we got to think about the landlords. The landlords, sometimes some of them know how the process go, some of them don't. And they also, there are people, just like everybody else, who would like to have the process explained to them. They will also like to have their money. 'Cause at the end of the day, it is a business. It's not like they're just having somebody live there and they're not using water, they're not using light, and these things are not happening. We have to also think about two folds. And I'm happy that you said sometimes these government subsidies, even though we love having them and people need them, sometimes they also fall short in paying the landlords what they're owed. Sometimes it's not even the client's fault. It's really sometimes the
Right.
city's fault for not doing their part. And um this what I think see with Anthos is that they're making sure that people don't have to go through another trauma of going through court. Because courts are not when you know you even if you did all you can and you go to court and you know you in your heart you know you're not blamed for something. It just give you an airy feeling when you go to court.
Right.
You know you're not in trouble and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to go to court now. I gotta go to front of the judge. I do I need a lawyer? Do I not need a lawyer? And this cuts out that anxiousness that you may have
Yeah.
about going to court. This kind of takes that out the way. Landlords don't have to waste money taking you to court. That's also another fee. I don't think people realize like to bring somebody to eviction court, that's not it's not free to do that. It's fees behind doing these things. So it's like it cuts out the middleman of families or people just being tortured going to court, and landlords have to bring you to court. And sometimes some of them might not even want to bring you, but they do need their money for you staying there and using the stuff that they do are they putting you in the apartments. So yes, it's very helpful.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like the government provides this incredible resource, right? It is amazing kind of how large Cityfeps is
Right.
and how many people it's serving. I mean, we know we want it to serve more,
Yeah.
but it's also the government has a lot of rules and regulations, and we can be a lot more flexible in kind of filling in the gaps
Right.
between the private owners, the tenants, and the government to really kind of reduce all the friction. That's the goal, right? To make just this easy for everybody. And our goal in the next year is actually to reduce that time frame from referral to us to placement to 3 months. And we think we're going to be able to do that, which would be amazing.
This is a model I think, in my opinion, I don't feel like Anthos Home should get everything, right? It should
Right.
be smaller places doing the same thing. So it won't be like how home base is like kind of hunkered
Hmm.
down with everybody coming to them. If we have smaller anthoses around New York City and then we could broaden out to New York State, then the world, well, probably just
Right.
America, I think it will work so much more because you get to know, but if we do it by zip code, you get to know those landlords in those zip codes and they know where to go. And if something happens, they could probably go to a storefront where it's Anthos Homes for Brooklyn or Anthos for East New York kind
Hmm.
of thing. So I think this thing sh it should be modeled out so much that we all can do our part in making sure that everybody has housing and everybody can be able to live and be not just like where am I going to live this month? Where am I going to live next year kind of thing. And I think by having this, it kind of help people take off that weight off their shoulder. They have to feel all the time if they don't understand how to, if they maybe they can't use a computer, maybe they can't speak English. There's a lot of factors why people don't even get to recertify properly the first time, especially. So
Hmm.
having this tool there and really putting out to more of the communities, I think it will be much better. So I'm my thing right now, I'm saying whoever's listening, and if you have the money to make at those homes, many versions of them, all in New York City, a couple of them per area, I'll be very grateful if you could put money into them. They didn't ask me for this, but I think having this, because
That
home
would be
base is
great.
stress, right? Home base is stress. And their home base in general, they were open for a good reason. And over time, they have burdened them with more work than they were set up for. And they don't
Right.
have enough money. I'm not saying they don't have enough money, but they need more money put into them because they're putting more work on them. And they need more workers. So if people like Anthos Homes can help take out that stressor from that particular place, I think that would be helpful to make sure our city can run properly. Everybody wants to come here, but the system takes a long time to go through. And as we heard, it is 5 months. People in shelter, families at least, are over in shelter over a year. So for from 5 months to a year, and you have a child who won't have to be stressed out, they don't have to train school as often. Like these things are factored into everything. And if we come together as a community to make sure that people can get what they have to get, they don't have to be in shelter that long. That means we could actually close shelters because we're not going to need as much as we had before if everybody's actually housed. So,
No, completely. I mean, I completely agree that, not just home base, but shelter providers also are
yeah,
very overburdened. And that's where I think, again, we see our value because that means, you know, because we go out and identify these units and reserve them for people who are coming to us, it makes the process much simpler for the future tenants
right.
because they're not out there competing with 20 other people for the same units. They're not Googling for the same units. We're really helping to make that process easier. And, when they come to us, they'll say they want to live in a particular area. They need a two-bedroom. They might need an accessible unit. Then that's on us to show them a few units that meet those requirements. And ideally, within 2 or 3 viewings, they're finding a unit that meets what they need. And that's just a much easier process than I think what many people go through in shelter.
That surely is. So you did talk about Cityfheps earlier and about how we would like you kind of alluded to expansion, right? I feel like that's what
Yes.
was said. Yeah, so that's a hot topic I feel like right now in our atmosphere in New York City in homelessness and housing people. And I think a lot of times we put homelessness, we need to fix that, and housing, we need to fix that, but we don't put it together and thinking there will be less homeless people if we just have proper housing and proper benefits that we need people to be on to be able to be housed and not homeless anymore. And Cityfheps is one of those things. We have, as she said before, 11 different vouchers that Anthos Homes work with. But Cityfeps is one of them, and they help a lot of people, but they can help a little bit more people. Right now, it's a lot of things going on. We were promised certain things. Those promises are not, they're not going on right now, as you can see. And we want to make sure that people in certain populations can have it. A lot of people on the shelter, on the DFEPs are families in shelter. That's a big population of that, but we want to be able to have people from domestic violence who are not part of DHS system. That's very different. If you go to
Mhm.
PATH and you go to Nova, you will be able to get that Cityfeps voucher because you're going through that city way. But if you call like Safe Horizon and stuff like that, because it is a different system, you're not going to be technically in that unless you go to like Pathway Homes or something like that. to be able to get that Cityfheps voucher. We also want to extend it to the youth, and to make sure that they can properly get that and things like that. So tell us what you think about the expansion and how it would help many people, not just families in shelter.
I mean, I think that, particularly the two populations you just talked about, these are, families who are in DV shelters, the young adults who are actually in shelter, they're all not in a home.
Right,
And for them not to have access to a voucher just seems really, when if you're in an adult DHS shelter, or a family DHS shelter, it seems to make no sense to me in some ways, if that makes sense. They're all not they don't have a place to call home. So, we very much think that that's important. And then I think pairing that with making sure that the voucher can always be used. You probably saw the report from the state controller who said that, for people who have Cityfeps vouchers, about 80% of them are not even able to use them for those who are eligible. And
right.
that's what we're really trying to focus on is if you have that golden ticket, right, to really help you get out of homelessness and stay housed, you want to be able to use it. And that's what we as an organization are so focused on is, for every single person who has access to a voucher, we want to make sure they're able to find a home and find it quickly.
That's the thing. Like was said before, a lot of people have the golden ticket of getting into housing because of certain things, housing discrimination, not understanding what to do,
Hmm.
things always getting, like example, what is it called? Inspections getting delayed. Places like Anthos homes that do this job help that whole procedure goes much faster and making sure that people have homes. And if you expand it, yes, it's going to be more work for the system. We understand that. But the thing about it, people who are in the actual DV system, after I'm going to say 180 days, if you get extensions or not, like extensions or whatever, they end up coming in the path system anyway. So they're going to end
Hmm.
up in that same place and you
Right.
made them kind of go through a whole rigmarole for no reason. They could have
Hmm.
been got that voucher, and places like New Destiny actually has certain programs that help people because they have a certain thing like also like this with the landlords that can help them
Right.
with those kind of things. So it's like if you just give those populations that they have stuff already in place in their wheelhouse that could help them get also housing. So it's like when you say no, you are not getting that. But in after 180 days, now you're eligible. It doesn't make sense. You waste money, you waste our time, and you actually put people in more trauma than they are supposed to be in. These people are technically qualified just not by the shelter they're in, they're not qualified, but when they go in a regular shelter for the city, they are. So it's like if you want to save money and save our
Hmm.
time and not hurt children, if you think about it, because a lot of the times the highest population in the DV are people with families. So you're hurting
Hmm.
children while you're doing this, and it's like you don't care. So that's what we're fighting for. That's what we're asking for. And then youth, on the other hand, youth, a lot of different stuff because they're in a different system, DYCD, they don't get as much things as people who are in adult shelters or adult family shelters that are in, and they're asking for your help also. They are asking because it was promised to them. It was told that many
Hmm.
years ago. It's not even just with this new mayor. It was promised from before. This is we've
Right.
been in litigation for a couple of years now. And you would think by now we will see that we had a housing crisis and we have a homeless problem, that this would have been cleared out and we had to go on to the next business. There's so much other things to fight for in homelessness.
I
This
know.
should have been the one that we got stuck on.
I
I don't
mean, not to interrupt you, but we have a partnership with Administration for Children's Services.
right,
And part of that partnership has been supporting young adults aging out of foster care. As you probably know, a very high percentage, if there is no support given, will end up homeless.
right,
And that partnership, because ACS was able to secure a special allocation of Cityfeps for these young adults aging out, we've been able to house about 160 young adults to date.
yeah,
We're working with a number more. And, that's hopefully allowing them never to have to enter into the homeless system by getting them into permanent housing because they don't have families behind them that can help them guarantee a rent or, you know, they've had a lot of challenges in their lives. So, that's really been a great partnership with the city, particularly Administration for Children's Services, like working together to help those young adults find housing. And we do find that those young adults do need a lot of support once they move in. You can imagine if you're between 18 and 24, have never lived by yourself. that you're going to need somebody to really help you through that. And that's what's been really great with that partnership.
Not gonna lie. I got my apartment, I feel like when I was like 26, 27. I've been
Hmm.
here since 2018. I've been here since 2026. So I've been here for quite a while. Um, and when I was even coming into here, I didn't got my first time living by myself, and I was in older than the 24. So I can imagine when you're
Hmm.
younger how to process the world and you're coming out of foster care. This is a side note on the homelessness thing. It gets me upset when people. It's one thing there's in a foster home and they end up in the system. That's one thing. But when parents or people, because you're not even a parent, take
Hmm.
in foster children and when they're
Hmm.
18 and they put them out on the street,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Shame on you. I'm so sorry. I'm not sorry. Shame on you for doing that. I believe personally, and I know this is a homeless podcast or whatever, that the city should take their money back from those people because there's
Mm.
no way you just set the kids up properly to make sure they're okay. At least get them a voucher, do something to make them kids get on the feet. All you care about is the money. That I used to be a foster parent. I would never, I would never do that to a child.
Hmm.
So I feel like we need to also work on that. Granted, it's not a, I don't really advocate as much for that, but I want to get into that because I just don't understand how the system allows these people to take all this money and it don't happen to some people. They'll have 5 kids and it happens to all 5 kids. They all have to move out the house or something like that. Make them go to school, help them get on their feet. And
Right.
don't push them out the nest like that without teaching them how to fly and give them no skills. It's ridiculous. But
Yeah, I mean, that's where I give ACS a lot of credit because they're
yeah,
really trying to make sure that that never happens
right.
through this partnership so that they are at least put into housing. And then you're probably familiar with Fair Futures. They are there to really help them with other things like education, employment, their health. So they've been doing a lot of advocacy on that work, but it's like a model that could be used for other populations, the young
True.
adults that are in DYCD shelters, for example.
It's true. It's a lot going on, and it's just a lot we have to advocate for. I feel like I gave you a lot in this in this episode. To be honest, we got Cityfheps. We need to help. We need to get more mini Anthos homes around. I want to make sure that the parents who are not good foster parents pay back the city. There's a lot. I gave you 3 things. That's the thing that's pretty good to work on, like homework. We need your voice. We need you to share this podcast and to make people understand what this voucher is about. Um, I'm going to be doing more episodes about hearing out different people and how they are in the system with the voucher. Because you'd be very surprised. The people who are helping the people, we want the vouchers. We want to make sure they have it. And it seems like the city is against that. It's like we put you in office to do certain things and you're not doing that for the people. And that's very disheartening to know that it seems like we're not as important to get things done. Um, and I want to make sure people are housed. It's very important to me, as you might know or may not know if you're new to this podcast or not. I was formerly homeless myself. I personally didn't qualify for Cityfheps, but I definitely use my voice to anytime I can to advocate for people to get Cityfheps and FEPS B and all these other vouchers that we have, Section 8, because even I think we need to also work on the standards for these vouchers. I think a lot of times I'm turning into the middle class now, guys. Proud for me. Before I was really broke when I was homeless. But I feel like for New York City, we don't think about the middle class people. We think about the poorest people, but the people in the middle, I think we think about the rich people, like they have all the money. The people in the middle who like just middle class and barely making it, and then we think about the poor people. So I think the middle people also need help, but that's not what the podcast is about. But I think they need to just change the standards of the vouchers of how much money people have coming in, especially for New York City. Because if you think about a person who makes 100K a year, it seems like a lot. With taxes coming out, it's like about 80. If you have about 2 or 3 kids, that's basically it breaks it down a lot from there. Especially if you want to have them in after school programs and things like this. So I think we need to also look at the standards of that. I know there's a lot of things to think about and to talk about, but we have a lot to work on. And never think is nothing to work. It's always something broken in the system or needs help. And these are the few things that we need help with at the moment. And again, as you might remember from the other episode, the EHV voucher is another thing with that going on. So we have a lot of things to go on. So if you think you just you're finished and there's no work to be done, I promise you there's work to be done at all times. We're never finished. We're never done. We're a city that never sleeps. So our problems never sleep also. So just put it out there. But do you have anything else to say about the City FEPS voucher and our Anthos homes about what people should know if they want to qualify maybe for it, if they can? like stuff like that.
So we would love to have many more mini Anthos homes. Until we get kind of more government partnerships, we're not going to be able to do that yet, or have, you know, but a priority population for us, if any of the families who are, listeners of yours or people that you know are somehow involved with Administration for Children's Services, that's a priority population for us. They can go to anthoshome.org. There's information there about how to get in touch. So if you're a family living in shelter involved with ACS, that's a population that we can help right now. We also help people with high health needs, meaning one or two chronic conditions, but right now we don't have capacity for more people, but we are hoping next year to serve more people, and we're also hoping actually through some private foundation investment to help young adults at the DYCD shelters, and we're hoping that they can get some vouchers as well. Um, so, we're excited to be able to kind of show the new administration that there's a better way to address how people kind of access housing using vouchers. And maybe this is, given that we've now had about 3 years worth of operations, there are things to learn and potentially expand in terms of implementation to make things easier for everybody.
Yes, whoever's listening again, you should definitely look at what Anthos Homes is doing. Obviously, it's working. From a year and change to 5 months, something has to be working. Granted, they have a smaller population to work with compared to a whole shelter system. But if you take the notes, you can scale it up to make sure this can help everyone, not just families, not just this, but everyone. So with the ACS cases, it would have to be like an open right now case, or could it be like if they
Yes.
had a case last year and then they don't want to get another case, they
It
can,
has to be open, is
okay.
my understanding. But it can be a prevention case, that they're involved with prevention services. Um, and anybody who is a young adult who's aging out of foster care should be eligible also. They don't have as many vouchers for all of those young adults, but they're hopefully getting some more right now.
Got it. That sounds like a plan. We have a lot of
Great.
things to make sure young people get vouchers, DV,
Yes.
all that, mini homes. You could call it mini homes from Anthos
Yes.
to mini home. I'm just saying, ideas galore. I'm just saying.
Ideas
Like,
galore.
thank you so
That's
much
good.
for coming on and teach us what's happening in your I want to say not the nonprofit organization and making sure that we understand that it can be done. I think people think like it's a big ask and a big push to do these things, but people are already doing it. All we have to do is literally copy it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel at all. There's no reason to do that. So here you go.
Right.
If you try to do this yourself, you can contact them and they can
Yes,
probably help you to do your own thing. So just be aware. It can be done.
definitely. All
So
right.
thank you for coming back to hear our
Thank
voices.
Thank you, Kadisha. Really appreciate it and just appreciate all that you do. This is so important, this work that you're doing.
Thank you. So, guys, please check us out. Talk to us on all social media platforms, and we'd love to have you as a guest. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay, great.